Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers have just beaten the Cincinnati Bengals for the fifth straight time. That means Week 7 is just about in the books. One more game, Monday night, Chicago Bears hosting the Detroit Lions. We want to talk about what we just saw on another exciting Sunday of NFL football. I want to go through a few of these games. An unfortunate day for me. 1-2 on my 3 picks, lost a little bit of money, and I was really bitter. You know, if you tuned into the show, we do the live stream here every Sunday at 1 o'clock or 1 o'clock this time, maybe 6 o'clock your time, but very, very frustrating way that I ended up losing. Had 3 games going on at the same time. One, Houston -6 against Baltimore. We'll talk about that game in a second. Lost to New York Giants -6.5. Giants only ended up winning by 4. But the one that really frustrated me, my third bet of the day, I was on under 44.5 in the Green Bay Packers-St. Louis Rams game. And after 3 quarters, those teams had combined for 23 points, but 27 fourth quarter points, capped off by an otherwise meaningless touchdown with 10 seconds left, touchdown pass from Sam Bradford, Rams scoring there to lose 30-20 in the end and send that game over. So very, very frustrating. The bitter taste, for a second there, because the Giants, towards the end of that game, the Giants had taken a 7-0 lead. For a second there, it appeared as though maybe I might win them all, might go 3-0, but not the way it worked out, 1-2. So back to the drawing board. That puts us only 1 game over 500, 12-11 on the year in our NFL picks. So hopefully we'll be able to do better next week. Let's talk about that Pittsburgh Steelers performance that we just saw over the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of people coming into this game, including me, thought that maybe Pittsburgh was done. Heading into this season, I didn't think Pittsburgh was done. I thought we were going to see the same Steelers team that we had seen the last few years. I was not one of those people who was writing this team off as, over the hill and things of that nature after the playoff loss to Denver last year. But a lot of people were saying those things about the Pittsburgh Steelers. But so far this season, they haven't looked like themselves. And I tell you what, I was ready coming into this game tonight. I didn't outright pick the Bengals, but I did sort of lean in their direction, had a feeling they might win the game, and so I was ready to really say that's the end of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they showed that is not the end of the Steelers. This team's not going anywhere. Winning that game, a key win. Now they're 3-4, really saved their season. The defense stepped up. We've been wondering where this Pittsburgh Steelers defense was. They did not play well last week against the Tennessee Titans. They played awful a couple of games before that against the Oakland Raiders, but holding that Cincinnati Bengal offense tonight to 185 total yards. Cincinnati came into this game ranked 9th in the league in total offense, but they were really controlled by that Steelers defense, and Ben Roethlisberger played well. So once again, that's the Steelers' 5th straight victory over the Bengals. And now the last 18 times Pittsburgh has played in Cincinnati, they are 14-3-1 against the number. So Pittsburgh continues to be an absolute great bet against Cincinnati Bengals, especially on the road in Cincinnati. Let's quickly talk about a few of these other games. Mentioned that Washington-New York Giants game, thrilling game. I was unhappy with the result because, again, I was on Giants -6.5. They ended up winning by 4. And once again, you cannot put this loss, if you're the Washington Redskins, you certainly can't put this loss on the offense, or more specifically, Robert Griffin III. Even though Griffin did have a couple of crucial late turnovers, this guy made things happen. They would not have been able to stay with the Giants if not for Robert Griffin III. Passed for 258 yards, ran for 89 yards. Led the team to what could have been a game-winning touchdown drive. A lot of people, myself included, thought at the time that it was a game-winning touchdown drive. Converted a 4th and 10 on that drive at one point. Really impressive drive, but he had just left too much time on the clock for Eli Manning in that Giants passing game. Washington does have the worst secondary in the NFL, 32nd out of 32 teams, and Manning shredded them today for 337 yards. So Giants able to pick up an exciting win, 27-23. That leaves the Washington Redskins at 3-4. Their next opponent, they travel to Pittsburgh to face the Pittsburgh Steelers, who we just talked about beating the Bengals. Both those teams 3-4. I think you have to give the early edge right now to the Steelers after that performance we just saw, but certainly don't want to write off the Washington Redskins. And once again, the Redskins cost me money. I've been underestimating this team all year. This is the fourth time this season I've bet against the Redskins, and I'm only 1-3 in those games. And again, I'm 12-11 overall, so I'd be doing better if I just laid off those Washington Redskins games or stopped betting against the Redskins, and maybe I'll learn. I guarantee you I won't bet against them next week just because of that. But the only one that did go well for me today, the only one that went sort of like we planned, Houston -6 at home against Baltimore. Coming into the week, a lot of people pointed to this as the best game of the week. Both these teams 5-1. And boy, Houston dominated that game. Houston looked like the best team in the NFL. Now, I know we're just a week removed from them losing at home to the Green Bay Packers, allowing 42 points in that game. So, don't want to rush. No sense right now through 7 weeks of the season. We don't have to crown the best team, but Houston is certainly an elite team this year, no question about it. And I think we learned with the Baltimore Ravens, even though Terrell Suggs was back shockingly today and made an impact, I think we learned with the Ravens what we had sort of seen even before the injury struck last week with Ladarius Webb and Ray Lewis being lost for the season with injury. This Ravens team is just not the same. They're not the same on defense, and today their offense wasn't able to get going like we've seen them in the past this year over the first few weeks. Baltimore falls to 5-2, but they certainly look like the worst 5-2 team in the league right now. I mean, from the outside looking in, I don't know, the arrow you'd think is definitely pointing down for this Baltimore Ravens team. 26th in the league in total defense heading into this game. I'm sure those numbers didn't improve in allowing 43 points to the Houston Texans. Again, not much good to say about the Baltimore defense, and where's the hope? I guess Terrell Suggs will be getting healthier. He'll have the bye to get even healthier, but no Ray Lewis. Ladarius Webb, one of their best defensive backs, gone for the season, as we said. So can Baltimore recover? You'd have to say doubtful right now, and again, they look like a soft 5-2. Another interesting game that caught my eye. What about the New Orleans Saints? Now, the New Orleans Saints went on the road today to play the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa Bay's been playing some good football under Greg Schiano, sort of under the radar. I know coming into this game they're only 2-3, but 4-1 against the number. Now, Tampa outplayed New Orleans in this game. They outgained them. They won the turnover battle. They won the time of possession. But New Orleans did come out with that 35-28 win, and the Saints have not been very reliable this year, even though they covered their second straight game, the second straight win cover here in this game. They were a short road favorite in Tampa. So the Saints haven't been reliable, mainly because of their awful defense. But one thing you can still rely on is that New Orleans offense. Drew Brees, business as usual today, 377 yards and 4 touchdowns. But when you see the Saints allowing 420 passing yards to Josh Freeman, this Tampa Bay passing attack, it is not exactly top shelf. So, is New Orleans going to be able to stop anybody? And you see that result. You see them beating Tampa. They're now 2-4 on the year. And you think, I heard a couple of people say it on television, and I thought myself, I'm sure a lot of NFL fans thought the same thing. We saw New Orleans win their second straight today. Because we've seen the Saints team over the last couple of years go on runs and seem unbeatable at times due to their great offense. So you think, are they going to be able to bring it back? After this horrible 0-4 start to the season, they get Joe Vitt back this next week, their interim coach. Their interim coach has been suspended for the first 6 games. Sean Payton, of course, their head coach, suspended for the whole season. But getting Joe Vitt back, some positive momentum now, and a game next week on the road against the Denver Broncos. That's going to be the Sunday night game. What a big game that's going to be. 2 high-flying offenses, obviously Peyton Manning versus Drew Brees. Looking forward to that one already. And I'm thinking, man, that game, how big is that game? If the Saints were to win that game to get to 4-3, or to 3-4, excuse me. Are they on the road back? Can they make it back? But, I had a look at their schedule here about an hour ago, and they're just not going to be able to do it. The Saints are done. They've just dug themselves too deep a hole. Forget going on the road to Denver next week. They're going to be underdogs in that game, and if they happen to pull it out, which they probably won't be able to, they're certainly not going to be able to stop Peyton Manning and that Denver offense. But even if the Saints pull it out to move to 3-4, let me read off their next few opponents, specifically their next 6 games. Now, there's one soft game in there against the Oakland Raiders. Let me read off the rest of their opponents. Again, they have Denver next. Then they play the Philadelphia Eagles. They play the Atlanta Falcons twice. They play Oakland, as we said. They play the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Giants. I mean, that's their next 7 games right there. Denver, Philadelphia, Atlanta twice. Atlanta's the only undefeated team in the league. Oakland, San Francisco, and the New York Giants. That is just too tough. And when you have a defense like the Saints do, they're just not going to be able to get through all that. Obviously, they are way behind in their division, and I don't believe they're going to be able to win enough games over the rest of this season with that schedule to contend for a wild card berth. So I do think it's too little too late for the New Orleans Saints, but we'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe they'll go on the road to Denver next week and win that game one step at a time, I guess, for the New Orleans Saints. But I think they're done. Now, one team, one of their NFC South rivals, one of their NFC South rivals who is most definitely now done is the Carolina Panthers. Carolina losing at home today to the Dallas Cowboys 19-14. Once again, unable to get that offense going. Cam Newton once again struggling a little bit, even though he played a little better today, was able to get it going on the ground a little bit. Still, a terrible red zone turnover in this game from Cam Newton. Panthers now 1-5. They're among the most disappointing teams in football. 6-10 last year, but a lot of people thought the arrow was pointing up for this Panthers team heading into this season. So, I know their fans have to be really disappointed. Obviously, the coaches and players, too, but have to be really disappointed. 1-5 now. Once again, Cam Newton sort of gave a disturbing post-game press conference. Don't know if you saw that, but he sort of mentioned his offensive coordinator and some other players. He also mentioned himself, but he said something to the effect of, I might not be quoting him exactly here, but just about exactly what he said. You can watch a clip yourself. Something to the effect of, I don't know whose fault it is, if it's mine, if it's the offensive coordinator, if it's the other players. I mean, just a little odd specifically mentioning your offensive coordinator. So Cam Newton's already been called out this year by a couple of his teammates for not having a winner's attitude. And he didn't appear, at least he didn't appear like most winning athletes that we see. He didn't appear to have that attitude again in the press conference after the game, but maybe he does it differently. I mean, to Cam Newton's credit, he's new at this whole losing thing. I mean, it's just been in the NFL since he has any experience with it. All through high school, college, both in the first team he played on in college, the Florida Gators, then he went to junior college, then the Auburn Tigers. They won everywhere he was, and so he's used to winning. He is not winning right now with the Carolina Panthers, and he doesn't know how to handle losing, obviously. So he better elevate the level of his own game because he's not playing as well this year. He's not playing as well this year as he did last year, and that's a big reason right now the Carolina Panthers are 1-5 because their defense played better today against Dallas. I mean, coming into this game, if you would have said the Carolina Panthers defense was going to hold Dallas to 19 points, you would have said that is a success. But they're still not able to pull out that game. Dallas, meanwhile, hanging in there. Cowboys are hanging in there, and we'll see. You don't want to. This Dallas team is the type of team where just when you're going to heap some praise on them and say, hey, maybe Dallas is getting it turned around and they're going to start contending now, they let you down. But certainly a big road win today for the Dallas Cowboys after a tough road loss last week. Now, one more game I want to talk about. There are only 2 afternoon games. The one that was by far the most watched, New York Jets going on the road to face the New England Patriots. By the way, the other afternoon game was exciting also. Jacksonville Jaguars blowing a big lead and losing to the Oakland Raiders. Jags pulled out the cover, though. But the New England game, just about everybody was tuning in to see that game. And a real surprise result there. New England a 10.5-point favorite in that game. And I'll tell you what, the Jets outplayed them. I mean, let's face it. Let's call it like it is. Jets outplayed them. Jets lost the game in overtime, really blew the game, squandered many opportunities. So on offense, they squandered several scoring opportunities. Now, Mark Sanchez played pretty well. He threw for 328 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. When you look at the numbers from Sanchez, I think a lot of people are going to say this is one of his better games. But I actually did not think he played as well as he did even a couple of weeks ago in a loss to the Houston Texans, or last week when he only threw for 82 yards against the Indianapolis Colts. Mark Sanchez made a couple of crucially bad plays. Bad interception he threw. The very end of the game when the Jets had the ball in overtime, Mark Sanchez took a sack and fumbled the ball. He's not very good at getting away from pressure. I mean, let's face it, not the most mobile guy in the world. And Sanchez took a couple of bad sacks in the game today and just made a couple of bad plays at inopportune moments, really. Did throw for a lot of yards, but all in all was not that impressed with Mark Sanchez. Was impressed with the way the Jets played all in all. I felt like they sort of beat New England in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think now it's time to accept that this Jets team is just not as bad as we all thought they were a couple of weeks ago. I mean, by the way, they're 5-2 against the number now. So for all the negativity about this Jets team, and we said coming into this game, I mean, all you've heard about this Jets team is negative. You know, what a bad offense. When is the quarterback change going to come? When is Rex Ryan going to be fired? Oh, their best defensive players out. They have no chance the rest of the season. So it's just been negative. But Jets have been a real good team to back. Now 5-2 against the number. They are 3-4 overall. Now a game back at first in the AFC East. Heading into this week, all the teams in the East were 3-3. Jets and Buffalo losing today. Miami was idle. They're still 3-3. New England, in winning this game, moves to 4-3. The story with the New York Jets all season, the sort of biggest storyline has been the Tim Tebow quarterback soap opera. It looked as though Tebow was on the verge of replacing Sanchez a couple of weeks ago. That has not happened. And Tim Tebow, I think, was more irrelevant in this last game against the New England Patriots than he has been all season. Got in the game 4 rushes for 12 yards, but really didn't use them. They really didn't use him much at all. And a couple of times where I really think that what he brings you could be handy. And one time in particular, they had a 3rd and 1 in the red zone, decided to throw the ball, incomplete pass, were forced to kick a field goal. Tim Tebow is as good a short yardage back as there is in the league, and the run-pass option that he gives you makes him one of the top red zone threats in the league if he's used properly. And so I don't believe he's being used properly, but you know what? You can't really argue with the way he was used today because the Jets did play all in all one of their best games of the season. And as I said, it's time to accept that this team's a little better than everybody thought they were a couple of weeks ago. It's also time to accept that this New England Patriots team, and maybe we've seen the cracks over the last couple of years. Maybe we've sort of seen this coming. Their defense has been getting softer and softer over the last couple of seasons. Defense played a little bit better this year than they did last year, but still. The New England Patriots are really no longer, I don't believe, a great team, an elite team. And maybe they'll prove me wrong. Maybe they'll make another Super Bowl run this year, but they're just not that. I mean, they're not that physical. I mean, Tom Brady obviously is still what this team has going for him. Tom Brady in that passing game, but they can just get sort of beaten up. They were sort of beaten up today by the New York Jets, and the New York Jets aren't a great team, even though I think they're better than we all thought they were a couple of weeks ago. But I think this game this afternoon showed us that the Jets might be a little better than a lot of us have been giving them credit for, and the Patriots might not be quite as good as some people thought they were. So watch out for New England. They might be a little overvalued. Certainly they were today as 10.5-point favorites over the Jets. And we know people love betting on the Patriots, and they have such a history of success under Belichick and Brady that watch out for them being a little overvalued over these next 3 weeks. Well, as I said, just one more game this week. Chicago tomorrow night, I guess tonight now. Chicago hosting the Detroit Lions, NFC North battle. Bears currently installed as a 5-point and 6.5-point favorite on BETDAQ. Both those markets being offered 47.5 the total. Lots more markets being offered for this game on BETDAQ. I believe 12 in all. Now we'll be having a preview up on the site in a few hours for this game, so not sure which way I'm leaning towards this game right now. Going to look into it a little more. You know, Detroit's been a team that's hurt me all year. Detroit they've been a little disappointing. I know they won last week, but they've not been as good as we all have expected them to be. And Chicago's been playing some good football lately. So, again, we'll look at this game a little closer, get the preview up on the site in a couple hours. Hey, hope your day today went a little better than mine did. Again, 1-2 for me. Hope you had a winning day. We'll see you in a couple hours again for this preview on tonight's game. Until then, for BETDAQ NFL, I'm John Arnette.